without any forewarning or notification. At the time of day when you are focusing your mind on work, your eyes are seeing clearly and your thoughts are only about what you are doing. And then suddenly she sticks her tongue out and starts touching the back of your hand, or inside your wrist or the side of your face, slow and methodical, with no rush or urgency, and then will place her head against you afterwards and appear as if the licking was the totality of her purpose. You may have called it a kiss. Most people call it a kiss. The licking and subsequent affection associated with the licking between you and your dog is one of the most accepted beliefs in the relationship between man and animal, that licking is an expression of affection, that it is a sign of love, and that by sticking their tongue on you, your dog is showing you the same affection that you feel for someone that you are reaching across a room to hold their hand. The assumptions made about licking, however, are not wrong. They are simply incomplete, in that there are more facets than just the assumption of affection. The lick your senior dog gave you in the afternoon stillness is not only a single behavior that indicates a single intent, it is a multifaceted biological occurrence, a remnant of ancient wolf behavior, a neurochemical signal, a tactile exploration of your skin, and an attachment behavior that is so old that the act of licking predates the dog as a species. And in your old dog especially, it carries something else, a weight that younger dogs have not yet earned the years to acquire. Dive with me into the animal kingdom. Tonight, we're cracking the code of one of the most private and least understood behaviors. If we're going to understand why dogs lick, we're going to have to start, as we always do, not in your living room, but in the depths of time. Long before there were dogs, long before there were even proto-dogs, long before there were proto-wolves that began to experiment with the proximity of humans, the act of licking was a highly evolved social strategy. Licking is a multi-purpose activity in the lives of wolves. Wolf pups use it to stimulate regurgitation of food from the mouths of returning adults. This, of course, is the first alimentary function of licking. But adult wolves use it too during greeting rituals, as a signal of recognition and subordination. In fact, the dominant wolves in the pack are the ones most frequently licked by the lower-ranking members. The tongue, in the social lives of wolves, is not just a sense organ. The tongue is a diplomatic tool. But there is a third function that is not so well known and perhaps more pertinent to the behavior you are witnessing with your older canine. Wolves lick wounds, their own, and those of their pack mates, and not just to clean the wound. Wolf saliva has a number of bioactive components that are known to have antibacterial and regenerative effects. Licking of wounds by wolves is a form of care, an investment of the wolf's own body into the healing of another wolf's body. These three functions are the evolutionary precursors to every lick your dog has ever delivered to your hand. They did not go away when wolves became dogs. They were hijacked, redirected, refocused to a new relationship, to a new species, to a new context, to a new emotional valence. Your hand is not a wound. But when your older dog licks it with that intent focus, there is a part of that behavior that goes back to the primal act of attending to what is of value. Let us look at what is actually going on in the moment of contact. Your skin, from the neurological perspective of your dog, is an incredibly rich information environment. Human skin releases a constant cocktail of substances, such as lactic acid, urea, amino acids, fatty acids, and the residues of everything the human has touched, eaten, felt, and experienced. Collectively, this cocktail is referred to as a chemical biography. Your skin reveals things about you to your dog that you cannot even know yourself. Your stress levels, your hormonal levels, whether you have been working hard, whether you have eaten recently, whether your cortisol levels are high or low. Your dog's sense of smell, with 300 million receptors and a brain region 40 times proportionally larger than the human equivalent, reads this biography with a level of precision that cannot even be conceived of within the human world. The lick is, in part, a reading action, a data collection event. Your dog is collecting data about the current physiological state of the human with her tongue, an action that complements the data that the nose has begun to collect. But the action of the dog licking the human is not merely data collection. Studies into the neurochemical impact of physical contact between dogs and their owners, such as the seminal 2015 science paper by Kikusui et al. On the oxytocin gaze loop, show that the physical contact between animals and their owners causes the release of oxytocin in both species. The lick is not simply a reading of your chemical state, it is a change to it. Her tongue on your skin is not simply reading your neurochemical state, it is changing it. She is simultaneously reading and changing her state as well. This is not a trivial distinction. It means that the act of licking you is, in a literal sense, a regulatory intervention. She is regulating the chemistry of the bond in real time with the only tool evolution gave her to make direct biochemical contact with another species' skin. Here is what experienced senior dog owners always report, and the behavioral literature supports. Older dogs lick differently than younger dogs. The licking of a young dog is rapid, enthusiastic, indiscriminate. The face, the hands, the ears, the floor, the furniture. It is high-energy social behavior with a broad target profile. The licking of the senior dog is slower, more focused, more deliberate. It is aimed at particular places: the back of the hand, the inside of the wrist, the face, and it is sustained for longer. There is something in the licking of the senior dog that's lacking in the younger dogs. Several explanations for the change in behavior of the senior dogs can be proposed by the field of behavioral neuroscience. The first is the principle of sensory compensation. As the senior dogs age, their distant senses of hearing and vision diminish in reliability. While the olfactory system is more resistant to the effects of aging, it is not as precise. However, the proximate senses of taste and touch remain more robust. The senior dog who licks you more slowly and more deliberately is possibly compensating for the diminished reliability of her distant senses by relying more on the proximate senses. You are the senior dog's most salient cue, and the more you touch, the more salient you become. The second explanation is the intensification of the attachment system. As we discussed in our previous episodes, aging activates the safe haven response, the proximity maintenance system that pulls a dog closer to her attachment figure as the world becomes harder to navigate. Licking in this context is a contact behavior that simultaneously confirms proximity and reinforces the bond. Every lick is both a check-in and a deposit into the neurochemical account of the relationship. The third explanation is the most tender and the most speculative, but the most consistent with everything we know about the evolutionary history of the behavior. Your senior dog may be tending to you, not in the anthropomorphic sense of conscious caretaking, in the older, deeper sense, the wolf sense, of directing a care behavior at the individual who matters most to you. The slow, deliberate lick of an elderly dog's tongue may be imbued with the memory of the wound care behavior, not because you are wounded, but because of the inherent meaning of the behavior's evolutionary grammar. This is somebody I protect. This is somebody I am willing to invest in, somebody I am willing to invest my attention and biological capital in. She is not kissing you. She is something older and more serious than kissing you. There is a dimension of licking behavior that ethologists have well explored in canine behavior and communication patterns, and this needs to be discussed specifically in terms of elderly dogs. Turid Rugas is a Norwegian dog trainer and ethologist whose work on canine calming signals has been substantiated by subsequent studies in canine behavior and psychology. In her work on canine body language and behavior, she identified the behavior of lip licking and slow licking of the air or of another individual as a primary canine calming signal. In interdog communication, if a dog, in the heat of potential conflict, licks the face of another dog, he or she is essentially saying, in the language of dog social communication, I am not a threat. I am a connection-focused animal, not a competitor. The conflict we are experiencing does not have to be. When your senior dog slowly licks you in the afternoon, it's possible she's using this form of communication on you, but not because there's conflict to be diffused. Rather, because this form of communication has a secondary benefit, one that's relevant to this situation. It's also self-regulatory. The act of giving a calming signal has been shown to have an impact on the dog's autonomic nervous system. The dog's heart rate slows, cortisol levels modulate, and the act of signaling calmness has the secondary benefit of creating calmness in the dog who gives the signal. Your senior dog's licking you could be, in part, self-regulatory. And knowing what we do about the synchronization of HRV in the autonomic nervous systems of bonded dogs and humans during long-term proximity, her self-regulation in the presence of you is also simultaneously your regulation. Two nervous systems, one slow lick, both settling. Not all licking is the same. And in the senior dog, alterations in licking behavior have diagnostic implications that all dog owners should be aware of. The increased frequency of licking, especially self-licking of the paws, flanks, or other areas, is one of the most dependable signs of incipient pain or distress in the aging dog. Dogs, you see, are hardwired to inhibit the expression of pain in social situations. In the wolf pack, weakness was the surest path to predation, social status loss, and death. The dog who shows signs of pain suffers loss of status, loss of social protection. Pain is hidden then with extraordinary efficiency. But the body finds other outlets. One such outlet for the dog is repetitive self-licking. It stimulates the wound care centers without overtly indicating distress. The dog is taking care of herself in the oldest way possible, where the distressing sensations are located. Paw licking in senior dogs can be an indicator of arthritis, especially in the areas closest to the paw. Flank licking can be an indicator of gastrointestinal distress. Licking in one anatomical area, especially one that appears to be externally normal, requires veterinary investigation, because the absence of outward signs does not preclude the presence of inward distress. A reduction in owner-directed licking, especially if it happens abruptly in a dog that has been a licker, is also noteworthy. The bonding interactions are some of the last to be lost. When they are, it means something has changed in the dog's neurological or physical status, something that is dampening them. Cognitive dysfunction syndrome, severe physical pain causing social withdrawal, or systemic illness can all be represented by the reduction in the contact interactions that have been the hallmark of the relationship. Know your dog's baseline. Know what her licking looks like when she is well. The deviation from that baseline is the signal. We have spoken of the chromosome 6 insertion previously in these episodes, the genetic mutation that causes hypersociability in dogs, the molecular signature of the bond that has existed for 15,000 years. But the connection to licking deserves particular explication. Hypersociability caused by the chromosome 6 mutation is not a general sociality, it is a particular sociality, a sociality focused on human social cues, human faces, human voices, human emotions, with a depth and purity of focus found nowhere else in any domesticated species. And it is a sociality that is enacted in contact, proximity, gaze, touch, and in the most intimate of these behaviors, licking, which requires the closest approach and the most direct physical contact with another's body. The lick your senior dog gives you is not a learned behavior or a culturally conditioned practice. It is a genetically determined phenomenon that was assembled over thousands of generations for the purpose of this. For the moment when a dog closes the distance between herself and a human and touches her tongue to skin that has for 15,000 years been the closest thing to home for the canine nervous system, she is not doing what wolves do. Wolves do not lick humans this way. She is doing something that was invented in the space between the species, a behavior that was created in the course of the bond, and that now exists only for the purpose of the bond. When she licks you, she is the most herself she can be. She is expressing through the oldest physical gesture available to her, the thing that her genome was built to express. She looks up, her head rising, locates your hand with her nose, the initial reading, and then her tongue, slow, warm, deliberate, outlines the inside of your wrist. She has done this 10,000 times. Each time oxytocin passed between you. Each time her nervous system read yours and yours read hers. Each time something in the ancient chemistry of the bond was confirmed, deepened, made one more layer in the file of what you are to each other. She is not kissing you. She is doing something that has no word in any human language because no human relationship contains it. She is checking you for wounds she cannot see, reading a chemical biography she alone can read, regulating a nervous system that has learned over years to regulate with hers. She is telling you, in the oldest language she has, that you are worth the full attention of every sense she possesses. And in her particular age, in the gray-muzzled, slow-moving afternoon light quiet of being old, the gesture carries everything the years have put into it. Not a kiss, something older, something without a name, something that began 14,000 years ago beside a fire in Germany when a human hand reached toward a sick animal, and the sick animal, against every instinct of its wild ancestry, pressed its tongue to the offered palm. That was the first one. This is the 10,000th continuation of the same gesture. This is the wise claw, where the science of your senior dog's inner world intersects with the connection that has been developing since before your species or hers ever had a word for love. If what we are giving you has given you anything, a new way of receiving what she gives you, a new understanding of what she gives you, then subscribe, pass it along to someone who is licked daily and has never really understood what they were receiving. In our next episode, What Your Senior Dog's Sighs Mean, the science of canine vocalizations, what the research says about emotional expression in senior dogs, and what that sigh means when she makes it in the afternoon. Until then, when she finds your hand with her tongue, let her. She is reading you. She is caring for you. She is telling you something that has never really had words to contain it, the oldest form of the word she has always meant to say.